Massive disclosure about the life in underground light cities like Shambhala, Telos, Agartha, and many others. In addition to the light cities created by the joint operations of the Galactic Committee and the Light Forces ground teams, there are other such cities above and below the Earth's surface in 4D and 5D. They were built thousands of years ago by the civilizations that inhabited our planet. All of them were formed as a result act that people of earlier third and fourth races had to go in the underground etheric and mental fourth and fifth dimensions to help subsequent civilizations from there to maintain spirituality on Earth. There are vast underground spaces with 4D light cities in many areas of the planet. Here are some examples. The first one is Agartha. Agartha consists of 120 light cities which are located beneath the Americas. They belong to the Hyperboreans, which are 114 cities in them. The population is over 34 million people. The second city is Shambhala. The entire country is centered on the Asian continent, its capital located in Central Asia. The main city is home to over 2.5 million Aryans, very highly evolved beings who have decided for the time being not to incarnate into the physical bodies of our fifth race. In addition to the main Shambhala, there are small Shambalas in Asia, areas less populated by highly evolved individuals of the previous Earth civilizations. There are 8 in all, 1 in each the Himalayas, the Tibetan Plateau, the Kunlun Mountains, the Gobi Range, the Pamir, and 3 in Siberia. There are about 10 million people in the Shambhala civilization on the mental 4D plane. Telos is the capital of the Lemurians, located under Mount Shasta in California. It has a population of 1.5 million people. Another city is the city of Posid, which is the main city of Atlantis, located near Arkansas in the United States. It has a population of 1.3 million people. Another city named Shonse, and it's a haven for the Uyghur culture, which is a branch of the Lemurians who went underground 50,000 years ago. The entrance to the city is guarded by a Buddhist monastery in the Himalayas. The population is 750,000 people. Another city is Rama, which is near Jaipur in India, population 1 million people. Another city is Xinhua, which is a city in the border of Mongolia and China. Another city is Giza, which is located in Egypt under the Great Pyramid and the Sphinx. On the 5D subtle plane above the Earth, there are also 144 light cities plus 120 stations of light. What do those cities look like, and how is life arranged in those cities? Subterranean light cities are located in huge cavities of the planet, which has a honeycomb structure. They can create local high energy fields, both mobile and permanent, limited by the action of their respective high frequency radiation generators within the boundaries of their colonies. On the surface of the planet, the energies of the lower mental field associated with the manifestations of human and animal emotions prevail. The outgoing Kali Yuga and cosmic night was a time of low coarse emotions. The inhabitants of the light cities cannot exist in this world. The energies of the lower mental field and the higher ones do not assimilate into each other. Even telepathic contact with us is difficult because our thought patterns are generated at a different frequency. They have high energies that are inaccessible to most people living on the surface of the earth. The space occupied by the light city is shaped like a huge hemisphere. High above is the source of light. On the flat base of the cavity are numerous structures of various shapes, or all are transparent and translucent. Residents of underground cities in the fourth dimension live from 200 years to 1000 years and 1500 years. In the 5D, life expectancy ranges from 2000 years to 10,000 years and maybe even 20,000 years. Bodies do not age or die. If one has fully explored the reality in which it has lived and has achieved spiritual purity corresponding to the next level, one can move into it by transforming the body at will. The people who inhabit the light cities appear tall, thin, with long flowing hair. They wear long, loose white clothes, sometimes colored apparel. The area of such city is several square miles. It consists of space arranged on several levels. If the light city has 5 levels, most of the inhabitants live in the first floor. There are also administrative buildings, childcare facilities, schools, and temples. Of the first level is the main temple, which accommodates up to 10,000 people at a time. It can be built in the form of a pyramid. The second level of the light city is occupied by various industries producing products for the population. The third level is entirely covered by gardens. All food crops are grown here to fully feed the entire city. Food consists of an ethereal substance and has its taste, smell, and color. Inhabitants of the city eat not so much of necessity, but out of pleasure. They eat for pleasure. Plants grow quickly under the influence of the vibrations of light and love, without adding fertilizer to the water. Accelerated ripening is achieved through the conscious impact. On the fourth level of the city are hydroponic and production facilities, parks with small lakes and fountains. The fifth level of the city is entirely devoted to nature. Animals are kept there. They are vegetarian and do not eat each other. They live without fear of people and mutually. People do not fear them. The variety of animals is great. On this level, there are species of plants and animals that are not found on the surface in 3D. The rulers of the light cities are elected by the population. Since life expectancy is not limited to the body, those who have built cities are still their chief rulers. They live in families which form large clans or communities. The light cities have no government. Their functions are performed by the communities. Each is self-governing and ensures that all the members that live in harmony. And every member of the community has everything he or she needs. Each community is individual. Everyone works for 4 to 6 hours a day, 5 days a week, for the good of the society. At the same time, any work is done at will. There is more than enough personal time. Everyone can devote it to their favorite activity. It can be art, creativity, or study. Everything they do is for their spiritual development. The entire life of the inhabitants of the light city goes in deeds for the benefit of everyone. The main condition for the soul to be in 4D and above is love. It is not falling in love as understood in the third dimension, it is divine unconditional love. Children grow up the same as in 3D. They are nurtured until the age of 18 and then they have become independent. The difference with us is that the parents give their children all their time and attention until the age of 3, completely free from work. Until the age of 18, the child grows and develops under the constant supervision, not only by the parents but also of other organizations in the light city. Everything is thought out and provided to raise them properly. In addition to their level subjects, children in schools learn the language of the Earth's surface, those countries under whose territory the light city is located. Their television devices receive Earth TV broadcasts to keep abreast of events on the planet. The inhabitants of the underground light cities pay great attention to the sexual educations of adolescents. It is the basis that defines the life in 4D. Responsibility is taught throughout upbringing and education. There, minors cannot have children, as it often happens in our reality. Only from the age of 18 can young people enter into free marriages, but with the condition that they cannot have children. In free marriage, they live only for love, because nothing can bind them except for love, neither the question of housing or material dependence, and nothing else, unlike us. If there is the slightest coldness in feelings, the free spouses thank each other for the lessons and the wonderful time they spent together as part as great friends. And so they can fall in love an infinite number of times and make temporary alliances. There is not even thought of cheating. It is simply impossible in their state of high consciousness. If they meet someone more interesting, they will honestly tell their partner about it, and he or she will not hold their alliance. If a couple have been living together for a long time, unconsciously wants to have children, they petition the main temple for permission to enter into a permanent union and have a kid or two, usually no more than 3. After the permission is granted, the search begins for the soul in the upper dimensions, which is invited into incarnation. The process takes from 6 months to 12 months. Having found a kindred soul, they establish contact with it and communicate for some time. They discuss the condition of upbringing. Only after that, the soul is embodied first on the etheric level and then passes into the maternal body, consisting of a crystalline, radiant substance. The baby is carried for only 12 weeks and is born as a complete child, since the mother's body does not know declining of life, and it is possible to give birth at any age. Children are born only in 3D and 4D. There are no kid births in the 5th dimension. The souls in the 5th single out from self the aspects, which can develop independently as an individual being. In the underground light cities, everyone builds a home for themselves and their families. All houses and structures are erected by thought. First, a project is made, then the construction material is chosen, and through visualization of the thought, the house is erected. Usually the house is ready in 1 day. Dwellings have hemispheric appearance made of crystalline substance, which makes them appear transparent. They have the property of an optical membrane from the inside. Furnishings are quite simple. There are no chairs, tables, and many things inherent in our everyday life, only some cubes. Those shapes can transform into any shape, as desired by the owners of the dwelling. Other forms of buildings in the underground light cities are of different functional nature. Some are adapted for the administrative purposes, others for scientific researches, some serve as production facilities. The city is divided into blocks by streets through which the local transportation moves. It is programmed in such a way that traffic, like our airplanes, is at strictly defined level above the surface, corresponding to each direction. For inside the city, rides, vehicles are oval and open, 2-seat. They are comfortable. The lane width is approximately 5 to 6 meters. Moving along, they will never collide with one moving across, so there is no need for traffic lights. There is also no need for steering. It is done by thought, which triggers a certain driving program. There are also moving sidewalks, interlevel escalators, and electromagnetic sleds like our snowmobiles. A dense network of transparent tunnels is used to communicate between the light cities around the globe, where speeds can reach up to 3,000 miles an hour. Those tunnels are in 4D and 5D under the entire surface of the Earth. The underground light cities have direct portals to space and use their cosmic fleets to do so. Our sector of the Milky Way is served by dozens of their space fleets. There are UFO on the mental plane. The light cities can use them to conserve energy. Everything requires energy. The energy of one 4D being is barely enough to travel to the nearest star system. By creating a UFO, saturating it with huge amount of power, the light city's inhabitants can visit other galaxies without losing their energy. Are there physical bodies in the light cities that their residents can use? Yes, there are. Those are the bodies of the Aryan and the Lemurian races, as well of our fifth race. They are in special capsules protected from time and external influences. There are also dormant ones intended for general use, plus an active awakened having a high level of vibration, ensuring the functioning of the light cities on the physical plane. But the cities themselves exist only on 4D mental plane. Do the inhabitants of the underground light cities come to the surface in physical bodies for teaching people and passing on knowledge? Yes, many have long since left the underground communities and live among earthlings. There is no point in reviving a preserved body of an ancient man. If a giant taller than 3 meters comes to the surface, it will be immediately grabbed, put in a cage, and will be shown to the public for money. It would be a zoo. But it's more convenient for the inhabitants of light cities to share their knowledge mentally with those who can receive information and translate it into a language that is understandable and close to our consciousness. Thus, they are spared much of the hassles sustaining physical bodies. They do not need water, food, air, clothes, passports, or certificates of COVID absence. It's more convenient for them. The most primitive form of communication with the inhabitants on the surface is the transmission of info by sound from the physical body to the physical body. The light cities used to do it, but have now given up this form of interaction. Sound is the coarsest, lowest form of energy, and it is used on the lowest 3D planes. Information is transmitted by the vibrations of the light cities, which is often not perceived by the consciousness of people who use sound. There is a huge gap between their community living under the earth and the main mass of planet's population. Therefore, the transfer of knowledge to us goes stepwise, with lowering of vibes for those who accept information from them and transfer it in a digestible form to people. The feat of those teachers from the light cities is that having all the capabilities of highly evolved beings, having finished their earthly journey, they remained on the planet to help us. They have consciously lowered their vibrations to voluntarily plunge into the depths of the darkness and ignorance in which we have to live. That is why a part of grateful humanity worships them, although they do not need it at all. There are many similarities in the 144 light cities in the 5D subtle plane above the Earth. There is a rave of color. The gray, black, or brown tones are absent. Extended color palette of warm, sunny, and heavenly shades, and lots of pink, gold, lilac in various halftones. Blue, purple, violet, yellow, orange with multiple tinctures surrounded the inhabitants of those cities everywhere. The air is like ozone, pure and cool. It forms the basis of life in the above-ground light cities. It is not only breathed but also nourished, because it has the composition of all that is necessary to maintain its etheric bodies. The blood of the inhabitants of the orbiting light cities has several golden colors, saturated with light. It streams through the translucent and the sparkling bodies of the 5D beings. They can easily change the shape, structure, and color shades of their bodies and eyes. All choose the form of a transparent energy cloth, as it's very beautiful and even more convenient. The outlines are either arbitrary or as they were in the original body. The dwellings and other structures for the most part resemble in form the best examples of our cathedrals or temples with their golden domed roofs, but unimaginably surpass them in beauty and grandeur. Among the relatively low churches with domes, the sharp crystal spires of a gigantic and majestic structures, which outwardly resemble the famous Notre Dame Cathedral in Paris, but only 5 or 10 times larger. They stand out in particular. The walls of those buildings, with their numerous decorations and ornaments detailing the life work of the angels and archangels, are made of substance of solid slabs of rock crystal. They appear completely airy and weightless, despite their thickness and massiveness. The walls are connected by shining crystal portals of fanciful shapes, with spheres glistening in the sun and spires reaching high into the sky. Some cathedrals house the richest libraries. In the near-Earth-like cities, there are majestic and solemn consecration shrines, huge science temples, and numerous and richest palaces of the arts. The walls of those cathedrals are made of a transparent and in some places translucent crystalline substance, through which the golden light shines brightly from within. In the distance beyond the emerald massifs of trees are rising gentle mountains of blue azure color. But this world knows no birds, no fish, and no animals. Humans are its only inhabitants. Inside the city, one can see many green lawns filled with ever-blooming flowers, abundantly watered by pulsating fountains and constantly moving water jets of varying height, hue, and thickness. They emit peculiar whimsical combinations of melodies. Fireworks of color music fountains are playing, sparkling and shimmering thousands of rainbows in the sun. There are nature reserves and greenhouses, very beautiful eco-complexes. There are park and entertainment areas and concert halls that are set aside for recreation. Many virtual public libraries are open, whereby by pressing a touch button directly from the space, one can get the needed book. All the racks are filled with books or book-shaped modules. Complex energy information devices that are easy to connect by taking in hands or even from a distance by requesting the desired sector of knowledge. The streets cannot strictly be called streets in our earthly view. They are much larger than the main squares of our big cities. The walls, facades, and decorations of some buildings are made out of materials very much resembling enormous pearls, rubies, amethysts, or emeralds. The smooth paths winding between green fruit trees and flower meadows are lined with the substance of smooth and huge plates of polished yellow and brown amber. The streets are not very crowded. Among the many fine young men and splendid young women, there is not a single one loitering idly or languishing in idleness and boredom. The entire light city is a kind of a Silicon Valley on a universal scale. There is no particular civilization or race. They work in groups and individually. Teams are assembled from many different parts of the world. But none of this matters at all at the level of development that most of the scientists working here represent. Many of them have never descended into the 3D at all. The light city in Earth orbit has no temporal, environmental, legislative, territorial, resource, or any other restriction to creativity. It represents one huge science community and several hundred research ranges. The rest of the area is set aside for the living and the recreation of employees and their families. Everyone shapes the space to their taste, and it's very malleable and easily transformable. Large plasma screens are projected on the streets in the space just above the people. They operate in a constant interactive mode. They broadcast news and advertise the latest products or artworks. The screens are touch sensitive. If someone liked something in an advertisement, by pressing a virtual button, that item instantly materializes. If it didn't fit, the item disappears with a return button. It's all free, on a merchandise exchange basis. If one likes, for example, a piece of furniture or a sculpture or a painting, he can get to know the author. The connection is established telepathically. If the desire is mutual, there is no need to go anywhere. Once the mental contact is established, one is instantly linked to space where the master resides. After communicating, one is easily teleported back home. There is no transportation. One can move freely anywhere by his thought. Many of the men wore plain white clothes of the most ordinary style. Pants, a shirt, light-colored shoes. Some wear white satins and small white hats on their heads. Others prefer pastel colors and more intricate cuts than others. As for the women or girls, it's impossible to determine their age. They are all young, slender, and beautiful. They wear a wide variety of clothes, from a dress from the Middle Ages to ordinary modern bikinis, or even just the white sundress up to their heels. A golden aura sparkles with inner light around each person. On the subtle plane around the earth, there are not only light cities, but also 12 countries representing the most ancient meta-cultures. To some extent, they coincide with the geographical contours of the corresponding cultural zones on Earth. The materiality of those formations was slowly built by the joint efforts of hierarchies, heroes, geniuses, righteous, and the broadest, most creative masses of the people, while the nation who put them forward continued their formation in history. Later, when its historical journey ended, millions of his immortal monads continued their ascent from one height of world knowledge and creativity to another. Landscapes are some equivalent of cities, but very little. Dwellings in the strict sense of the word are not there. The purpose of the structure is very special. They are mostly places of communication with other worlds and hierarchies. And yet in the architecture one can guess styles that are familiar to us, but as if elevated to incomparably higher levels. Every country on the subtle plane is dominated by the transformed language of the corresponding state on Earth. Here it is not only a sound but also a light language. It differs from the Earth language by incomparably richer stock of concepts. Along with the languages of the meta-cultures, there is common language for all. The names of layers, beings, and hierarchies. The speed and ease of assimilating different tongues here cannot compare to the same process on Earth. It happens without any labor, by itself. There are a total of 19 such countries on the subtle plane. They are hears and projections of the meta-cultures of Atlantis, ancient Egypt, Babylon, Assyria, Canaanite, China, India, ancient Iran, ancient Greece, Rome, the Jewish state, Byzantium, Roman Catholic, aggregating of the European Northwest, American North, Australia, and parts of Africa, Ethiopia, Muslim world, Asian Buddhism, Indo-Malay metaculture, Russia Negro metaculture, and the last one, the 19th, which is the formation stage, is the universal metaculture. All those states on the subtle plane belong to the light side. But besides them, there are 15 other countries either have destroyed or controlled by the dark hierarchy. Those are the ancient Sudanese, before Mongolian, Dravidian, ancient Germanic, ancient Peruvian, ancient Tibetan, Himalayan, Mongolian, ancient Australian, Aztec, Yucatan, Incan, Indian, Polynesian, and Japanese. In addition to the cities and the countries of light, there are 120 stations of light on the 5D subtle plane. The Galactic Committee and the ground teams plan to build 24 more light cities over the US, England, Austria, Israel, and South American territories on the subtle 5D plane, but no timeline has been given yet. The communication of the inhabitants of the light cities and the countries of light on different levels has resulted that they are now beginning to resonate with each other. The energy between them began to circulate much more actively, forming power connections. And if the cities and countries of light had previously existed separately, now they began to merge into a single energy system on the subtle plane. In a common system, each city and country retains its individual development. At the same time, it manifests into unique capabilities, which it is willing to share with all the other inhabitants of the planet. Thus, the co-creators and Galacom gradually create a single 4D 5D system on the planet, uniting all of its inhabitants. The process of displacing the remnants of the 3D matrix are underway, and in its place is implementing the absolute plan, which brings new and unique opportunities to the Earthlings. The main problem remains. Not all of humanity can and is ready to exist in the 4D and 5D vibrations again. And it is not because that everyone is not ready, but because the social system is not yet coped. As recent months and weeks have shown, everyone's consciousness will easily perceive those high vibrations and will be able to activate many valuable abilities that people had in ancient times. But the vibrations of society, especially intense in large cities, distort this individual transformation that everyone is capable of undergoing. And even on the contrary, the flow of high vibrations that Galacom and the highest light hierarchies can open, in this case, will increase the imbalance that exists in the society. Therefore, the co-creators do not wait, but actively intervene in the life of the Earthlings and the planet as a whole, in order to create the necessary conditions for the activation of the 4D and 5D vibrations in humans.